Hello and welcome to What the F*** Just Happened Today, your essential guide to the daily shock and awe in national politics. I'm Joe Gaetz. Let's get to it. It's Monday, January 9th, 2023. Welcome to day 720. The Georgia Special Grand Jury investigating coordinated attempts to unlawfully alter the outcome of the 2020 elections in the state by Trump and his allies has completed its work. After 8 months of investigation, the Special Grand Jury submitted its report on its findings to the Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis, who will decide whether to seek criminal indictments from a regular grand jury. While the grand jury's recommendations were not made public, including whether or not criminal charges would be filed, the grand jury, quote, voted to recommend that its report be published, end quote. A hearing will be held on January 24th to determine whether it will be made public. Willis has informed nearly 20 people that they may face criminal charges as a result of the investigation. Trump lost the state of Georgia in 2020 by less than 12,000 votes. Meanwhile, Trump and two January 6th rioters were sued over the death of a U.S. Capitol police officer. According to the lawsuit, Brian Sicknick, who was part of a police line guarding the Capitol on the day of the insurrection, was attacked with chemical spray. He suffered 2 strokes and died the next day. The lawsuit claims that Trump instigated the attack by Julian Ellie Cater and George Pierre Tanios, saying Sicknick's death was, quote, a direct and foreseeable consequence, end quote, of Trump's words and conduct that day. In September, Cater and Tanios both pleaded guilty to assaulting law enforcement with pepper spray during the breach. The suit seeks at least $10 million in damages from each of the 3 defendants. Moving on, Kevin McCarthy was elected House Speaker after 15 rounds of voting, which followed 4 days of defeats, a series of concessions to far-right Republicans, a confrontation with Matt Gaetz on the floor of the House, the chair of the Armed Services Committee being physically restrained from attacking Matt Gaetz, and Trump calling up 2 Republican lawmakers who were refusing to back McCarthy. In order to win the gavel, McCarthy agreed, among other things, to allow any single member to call a vote to remove him as Speaker. He gave the House Freedom Caucus 3 of the 9 seats on the House Rules Committee. He agreed to create a select committee on the, quote, weaponization of the federal government, end quote. He promised to require raising the debt ceiling to be accommodated with spending cuts, and he promised to vote individually on 12 appropriation bills rather than the single omnibus spending bill. The final vote tally was 216 for McCarthy and 212 for Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries, with 6 Republicans voting present. Trump's call into the chamber came on the 2-year anniversary of the insurrection by his supporters to block congressional certification of Biden's electoral win. Meanwhile, newly sworn-in Congressman George Santos violated campaign finance law, according to a complaint filed with the FEC. Santos, who has admitted to embellishing his biography, to say the least, was also accused of masking the source of his campaign's funding, misrepresenting his campaign spending, and using campaign resources for personal expenses, including for an apartment rental. The nonpartisan Campaign Legal Center alleges that Santos, quote, purported to loan his campaign $705,000 during the 2022 election, but it is far from clear how he could have done so with his own funds, because financial disclosure reports indicate that Santos had only $55,000 to his name in 2020, end quote. Dozens of expenses on Santos's campaign finance reports are listed as costing $199.99, 1 penny below the $200 threshold for which receipts or itemized details are required by the FEC. And finally, the Justice Department is reviewing roughly 10 classified documents found in the office space of Joe Biden's vice presidential office in Washington. Attorney General Merrick Garland assigned the U.S. Attorney in Chicago to review the classified documents, which were found on November 2nd by Biden's personal attorneys in a locked closet at the Penn Biden Center for Diplomacy and Global Engagement. Special counsel to the president Richard Sauber said the attorneys alerted the White House counsel's office, who notified the National Archives, which took custody of the documents the next day. Special counsel Jack Smith, on the other hand, is investigating Trump for potentially mishandling at least 325 classified documents at Mar-a-Lago. That's all for now. You can find the links and sources for all of these stories on the main website. And as always, visit whatthefjusthappenedtoday.com for the latest news and headlines. Until next time, I'm Joe Gaetz.